Gentlemen, welcome to the January 21st, 2020 Board of Selectmen's meeting. Could I have a roll call, please?
All 5 selectmen are present, as well as Town Administrator Sullivan.
I pledge allegiance, since there's really not much of an audience. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I guess we classify the newspaper.
Big crowd tonight. Should have people from home do it. Announcements. Mr. Slavin, please.
Good evening, everyone. I hope you enjoy this nice warm weather. I should have stayed in the desert. It was a little warmer, not a lot. We had the Martin Luther King breakfast yesterday morning. It was a really well-attended event. I have to give Kenny Fons credit for, again, running a nice event. They had a very good speaker, and Mrs. Fernandez, who is, I believe, a superintendent of schools in Athol District, which is, had no idea she had gone there. I thought she was still in New Bedford, actually. And also Mr. Mendez, who's the executive director of the Boys and Girls Club of New Bedford. Wareham is a satellite piece of that. It was quite well done. And I'm trying to think what else we got. Oh, yeah, there is a NIP bill for only a 5-cent deposit that's actually in committees now being discussed. And I don't know whether or not the bottle companies will defeat it as they usually do, but it's bill number H2881, again, H2881. Unfortunately, it's being heard on tomorrow. It's last minute notice as always. And it'd be nice if we could write a letter or maybe just call our state rep, Mrs. Gifford, and also our state senator, and lobby for at least to get it done. It will help a little bit, even at a nickel. I can guarantee you they'll all get picked up, get rid of them. Not going to stop people throwing them on the ground.
I'll try and send something over in the morning.
Yeah, either that or call, because it's really tight time-wise.
Oh, yeah.
That's it for right
I saw
now.
it I saw it this morning, I think. Come up, yesterday, and I was like, boy, that's fast,
As I say, they're just,
without any notice. Yeah.
as usual.
Okay, Jim?
We got a CMW meeting on the 29th. That'll be over in Marion, 5 p.m. There's a subcommittee meeting at 4 p.m., same day, same place. The posting will be coming out. That's it. The rest will be in like liaison reports and stuff.
Okay. Peter?
Yeah, just one thing. The charter change article that town meeting passed last spring that relates to the timeline for town meeting has cleared both the House and the Senate and has been sent to the governor for signature. So hopefully within a day or two, that becomes law. Once that happens, I'll work with Cassie in the office and come up with a timeline that's consistent with the new legislation, because that will take we didn't specify any time when that would take effect, so it takes effect upon passage and signature by the governor. So I kind of figured it would wind up in the middle of this town meeting cycle, and that seems to be what happened.
He's doing I think actually right now he's making like a State of the Union address for Massachusetts, if you want to call it that. So I would expect that probably we won't hear much this week, because they'll also be at the MMA convention, presenting the budget and everything else that he wants to do. But if nothing else, we'll get to say hello and remind him and try and get this thing done. Should be done by the beginning next week.
Yeah, I'm thinking.
This is a tough week.
Well, we'll see what happens when he gets to it, I guess, then we'll deal with it, right? Mary?
Nope.
All right, citizens' comments?
We
I
don't
don't
have any
see anybody
citizens.
here. Where is she?
Fresh out of Citizens.
Where is she, by the way?
You should enjoy the peace and quiet while you have it.
We should have invited her personally or something,
I really didn't want to say that too much out loud.
Board comments. Alan?
Last week I mentioned the casino bill. While I was away, I got an email and a text thing about just, that they were supposedly the casino bill was locked in with the online betting, a couple of things, they're supposed to be merging it, that's why I got advance notice. And when I got back, I just mentioned this could be a problem, and I spent about a couple hours going through, researching, and looking at the bills and seeing things where that particular bill is still all by itself, so nothing has happened that way. It's just some stuff that came out saying they want to maybe try it. So as of right now, the casino bill's sitting on its own, and it hasn't been what I call enjoined, which would make it very difficult.
No, it's probably a good thing.
So that's a good thing for us, just so everybody knows that the way I spoke last week as if it was going to be a real problem. Right now, it's not.
Mr. Manise?
We were just talking about the dates for town meeting. Now, I spoke to, I know you said they're waiting for a governor's signature. We're way earlier than 45 days before the date.
Right, for the warrant,
We
having,
can do that technically, it's minimum, 45 days is a minimum. So it could be 100 days or out when you set the warrant. For the, the dates for the warrant. So I just, if it didn't work out that the governor didn't sign it, I mean, I don't know if there was leeway to change those, so you could creep up to the 45 days, because it would have been more like March 5th, not February 3rd.
yeah, because,
Because you do the 45 days out from,
right, and it's going to be the 45 days out from when the actual town meeting itself commences, because the election has been moved afterwards. So you're actually counting back 45 days in time from April 22nd, I believe, is town meeting. So you're going back 23 days into March, which puts you at about March 7th or 8th, which is
because we really crunched.
right around the time that we specified anyway. So it's kind of funny. We filed this bill, we changed the election, and the net effect is that really probably all we needed to do was change the election date, and then everything else could have stayed in place.
So, and then I saw we're having an election, was it March,
May 5th.
May 5th?
Cinco de Mayo.
No, the one for the,
Oh, right, we've got the primary, the
Primary in
Massachusetts
November.
presidential primary.
does the town cover the cost and the expense of that?
We get some reimbursement from the state, I think, in a form of a stipend from the Secretary of the Commonwealth for early voting. I don't know that really covers the cost of the elections themselves, though. I think that goes into the clerk's budget.
You see that we have the clerk's budget, and then we have a town meeting budget, and then we have an elections budget as well. And you'll see the elections fluctuates, and that's based on whether you have primaries and things like that.
This is like an extra one, right?
Yes, that's
This isn't even the primaries yet.
correct. So
Yeah.
you'll see, that's why you see some,
$5,000 a pop about?
could be, just depending on the size and things like that.
This year, we're going to have 4 elections to hold.
Right.
You've got the presidential primary in March, you've got the town election in May, you've got the September primary, and then you've got the general election in November. So this is the most expensive year to run elections.
I was just kind of curious on that. Thank you.
Town meeting is the 27th of April.
27th, okay.
Okay. Jim, you're all set?
I'm all set.
Peter?
Yeah, I'm good.
All set? Mary? Okay. Appointments, reappointments, we have none, I believe. License and permits, we have none tonight. We'll move to business warrant for the presidential primary.
What would you like me to do this?
Just read it in the form of a motion.
Okay, we're just accepting this?
Yep.
Okay. I move that we accept the Commonwealth of Massachusetts warrant for the presidential primary as printed.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Mary, seconded by Peter. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. And then we sign it. All right, next, discussion of the trash disposal for the town after CMW contract. Okay, so Jim has been the one who's kind of led the front on this. I put it on because there are some things that we should do, and we're running out of time, in my opinion. December will be here pretty quickly. So when it comes to bidding, if we're gonna do any bidding or we're gonna do anything, we need to get started like ASAP. So even though whatever you're working towards or whatever, as you bring it up, we should probably maybe put some irons in the fire in other aspects as well, just in case, because we don't know what's gonna happen. But we need to be ready. You know how fast December will be here? Especially when we're talking about probably doing some bidding and so on. And what are we talking, 3, 4 months to get that out of the way?
5 or 6 months.
Maybe
No,
5 or
no.
6?
That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's going to depend, so.
Yeah, we kind of have things, Derek's been proactive, and we have a meeting set up with is that just an informational meeting?
It's to see which way we want to go.
Yeah.
So we have not contracted with them.
Right, and, I don't know, maybe we'll talk to some others.
Yep.
They'll look and give us figures, because, I want to speak, I don't want to speak for Derek. I'll let him say the reason he would like to go with an outside consultant to review how we operate, or possible ways we could operate. You want to take that, Derek?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things is with folks, especially when it comes to trash, this is one of the biggest issues, and it's almost a personal issue when it comes down to it. And we can have great plans, myself, the board, CMW, but I think we need to get a separate set of eyes on this and review the data and give us the information on it to really look at it. Some that have worked in other communities, because while we can look at all the different ones, I think we need somebody that has no skin in the game, if you will. So, for example, this engineering company that works with solid waste, we're meeting with, and the goal would be to see the different types. Is it keeping some sort of location where you would go and drop off your trash with a pay-as-you-throw system or something like that? In other words, keeping a transfer station, creating a transfer station, and the numbers behind that, and
No, just, I think the goal is to hopefully provide a service that would be cheaper than curbside collection. And the break-even point, it's like a household over 3 is gonna generate X amount of trash. At that point, maybe you're better off with curbside collection. But below that point, you might save 50%, 60%, 40 to 50% off of what it would cost you for curbside if we ran a transfer station. The methods of running it, if Carver's interested in doing something, or even at an outside chance the district continued it in an abbreviated form. I don't think there's a need to recreate what's already created as far as if we're going to have a transfer station, to build one. If we could possibly come to some sort of an agreement on having that property transferred to us or to Carver, however it works out. We're also talking with Carver. We started our meetings with Carver, with their town administrator and one of the select people. So we're moving. We have some stuff going. I think it's premature to really say what we're going to do, because we're not sure. There's a lot of moving parts yet, but we're trying to get it, put it together as soon as we can, so we can have some good conversation about it and have a direction we should go. I think,
Go ahead, Alan, you go first.
I think we're fortunate that we have options. Just to give you an example, about a year ago, I went out to the house in the desert in Nevada that I have, and when I got there, there was 2 big trash containers sitting in my front yard, with nothing around. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I called Clark County office and said, I got these 2 barrels. Clark County's decided to make everybody has to basically have trash pickup at their homes, and you get billed through the tax bill every quarter. And so what happens? I'm out there 3 times a year total. Doesn't matter. I said, well, I don't think I should have to pay X number, it's $30 or $40 every quarter for nothing. She said, not a problem, don't pay for it. It goes on your bill, you don't pay your bill, we'll sell your house. I mean, that's how they did it. They didn't give you any options at all. There was nothing, there was no vote. They just said, that's it.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I've actually thought about this for a while, for quite some time, and I go to Martha's Vineyard a lot, and I really liked the system that they put in place. The system that they have in place is they sell you stickers that you put on your trash bag.
Yeah.
So, and then they come and get it. And then they have, built into the cost of that, they have some method of picking up like white goods and furniture that they do, not all the time, but, you know, I don't know whether you call, they have them come do it or whatever, but it's built into each bag,
They still have
basically.
curbside pickup.
But everything's all curbside. They have one hauler that handles the whole town, the whole place. And it's really kind of neat, because you get there, and they have, in the drawer, they have a series of stickers, you know, and the trash goes out on Thursday. It happens to be Thursday in this particular area I
That
was
was
in.
Friday.
And you take the stickers and you put them in the big bags and you tie them up and you stick them on the thing. But they still have barrels. But the barrels don't count for anything, because they take the bags out and they check the stickers and they put them in the thing, into the truck, you know? That's how they do it. It's pretty simple. It's easier just to stick the bags out there in frac, because they'll just take them and chuck them in the truck, you know?
It's like an abbreviated pay-as-you-throw program.
It's
or
a
smart.
pay-as-you-go,
version.
basically, and I kind of like that idea, because, look, if you're a senior and you have one bag a month, you know, you're paying for one bag a month.
But what's the cost?
Well, that's what
Dollar.
has to be figured out.
So
And
we
that,
have to put that out.
that has to go out to bid, obviously, and you have to figure out what the cost is, including all of the other little tidbits, because they also have, you put a separate sticker on for a bag that's a recycled bag, you know, because they still recycle. So if you have plastic, it's a different sticker, so there's two stickers, basically, whatever. And you stick them on the bags and you throw them out, so they know which one's recycled, which isn't. Now, of course, today it doesn't matter, they throw them all in the same truck, and they sort them themselves in the facilities now. But, you know, I don't know if anybody knows that, but if you put out recycled like I have a guy who picks up my trash.
That's all the same now.
And they have a recycled barrel and they have another one, and you put them out front, and they take them and put them in the same truck. They just go up, they throw them in the truck, doesn't matter whether it's cardboard or whatever, because the facility they have, they put it in, and it goes into these things, and it goes across, and there's a sorter, and basically a bunch of little bins and stuff, and goes across the top, and it shakes out certain things. Paper falls because of its weight, you know, metal falls because of its thing. Everything kind of comes out.
That's what New Bedford Waste has at the zero.
Yeah,
waste,
and they
plant.
sort it all out, and then that's how they separate it up, basically, or whatever. But anyway, the point is that I really like that system, because individuals pay as they, not only pay as they go, but they pay as they need.
Well, that's one of the plans that we have. And you'd sell a sticker for the year for the for the use of the transfer station. That cost would cover the operations. Then you would sell either bags or stickers for both trash and recyclables, because recyclables are $117 a ton. Trash is like 70. Imagine that, huh, to get rid of it? And
get worse.
that covers the disposal fee. So it's a two-part program. So as you say, the one bag person, it probably, if you did a bag a week, you'd probably sell a stick, maybe be able to sell a sticker for around $125 a year, and then you have to buy the per bags. But there's a break point. So once you get over X amount of bags, is it worth it to you to be in that system? So right now, we sell 50-something hundred stickers in Wareham. That might drop down to 2,500, because some of them are duplicates and whatnot. I think I did some estimating, used 66% of sticker sales from both us and Carver. We don't know what Carver's gonna do. It's workable, it's feasible. We've got some things in the work as far as what's going to happen with the transfer station in Rochester. Some possibilities there. Is that way it would be from the district to a municipality or two municipalities, so you could transfer the permits and whatnot. A lot to be done. What do you think, Derek?
Well, yeah, we have 10 months to do this now. That's what we're really looking
Yeah.
at, to be ready, up and running, but within 10 months' time. And if you want to bring a consultant on board, that's going to take, what, a month or two?
We figure a month on
Yeah,
the very
okay,
most.
so there's a
yeah.
month gone. So now you've got 9 months.
Yep.
And that includes any bidding or anything that has to happen, so on and so forth. So that's why I think it behooves us to start today.
Yeah.
And-
Well, we have been. We have been. We're being proactive about it, but we don't want to come and just say things when it's really, we don't have anything firm. And because to present to the board to say, this is what we think would be the best after consultation and looking at things. There might be, I think the district wants to have a vote to authorize the towns, each town would have to vote to authorize to change the agreement. And they wanted, some of the towns are pushing to do it this spring.
Didn't they vote themselves out of existence,
You,
basically?
no, you can only, as you create it is how you can dissolve. So if town meetings created it, the only thing that can dissolve
So
it is
each
town meeting.
has to dissolve it?
Right, would
Have to go along with what they
Right.
want to do.
So, and one of the things, and I understand what you're saying, it's just, I really feel we need backup on this. We've got some great ideas. There's been a lot of hard work from Selectman Muniz, some of the other members, Mr. Benedict and such, behind the scenes, and they've put probably some information. It might be almost the exact same you'll get from the consultant, but I really think you need a second set of eyes, for lack of a better term, on this.
So you need something from us to do that? You need authorization, or you can just get it done?
Right?
Yeah, I'm moving forward. I guess you can say no, but
No.
otherwise I'm moving.
I'm not gonna say no. I
just
mean,
so that-
100% behind it.
Yeah.
Like I say, we need to get going.
And I think Mr. Sullivan had put in for a grant a couple years ago.
Yeah, we have 5,000 from the Commonwealth, so that's helping offset it, the cost for the.
I mean, I'm gonna say, we're gonna have real big egg on our face if we don't have something in place by then.
Yeah, it's going to be egg, leftovers. It's going to be a lot.
They're all going to
of
be on our
stuff.
front lawns. Yes, it is.
I tell
Yep.
you, you wouldn't believe all the calls and stuff I got about dump stickers going to $150, $200. I mean, there was a lot of that stuff happening. I don't know if you guys got it, but I got it. I got people calling me about that. And then when stickers finally came out, and somebody actually called me up and said, "What are you talking about? What is everybody talking about? This sticker was $40." And I said, "Well, it's the last year."
The district wanted to charge $125
Yep.
to see if, to see how many people would still be interested in paying that price to utilize a transfer station. But the district doesn't have the authority to set fees. All we can do is assess the towns. It's up to the towns to make the decision on how much they want to assess or charge for their transfer sticker fees. Because it's a pass-through operation, except for 2 years or 1 year when we paid $90,000. We did that 2 years or 1 year, Derek? The town was
It was
assessed.
almost 2.5 years. I think there was a partial year or something on it.
So, I think Carver went to $10. Marion was $10. They went up to either 40 or 50. And, because their beach stickers included too. If they want the transfer.
Well, ours are separate now, so.
Yeah.
you buy 'em.
Now they used to have curbside pickup by the municipal maintenance, but they did away with that, and they contracted out, because they had to buy all new equipment and everything, figured it was cheaper to contract out. So they've always had curbside pickup. And so they have some growing pains over there too, even though they don't really need, and really didn't need the transfer stations, except for maybe TVs and white goods. Well, we don't have that opportunity or that benefit, neither does Carver. We're in the same boat. So you throw everybody to the wolves and say, hey, you're on your own, you know, work whatever deal you can, or we try to have to come up with some sort of municipal program. And, but it should be self-supporting. And the pay-as-you-throw program is, or also what they call a SMART program. What's that, save money and
And, I don't know.
reduce trash?
Trash or something, yeah.
That's Derek sent me that one. But it's got to be self-supporting,
Yeah.
so that we don't have to take any money out of the town coffers. That's the plan. But again, we're going to talk to some
All right,
consultants.
so we're gonna get the consultant going and hopefully, go ahead,
Yep.
Peter.
I think we should keep this on the agenda until we have a solution.
Yeah, I'll keep it on the agenda. And we
I think it
that
should
way
just
if
be a
anything
weekly
comes
item,
up
and if
every
there's
day,
anything
we can
comes up,
talk about it.
then we're prepared to talk about it. We don't have to wait.
Good idea. You know, we'll just keep
This
it
is a
on.
big enough issue that,
This is a huge issue for the town. This is probably one of the biggest one we faced in a long time, and it's pretty stinky, you know?
yeah, well, it's gonna be if we don't get the trash picked up
Yeah, and
starting
I'm
January
being
2nd.
good, just so you know.
All right, so that's
Let's
how,
be smart, not stinky.
all right, so we'll keep it out there, and then that way we can talk about it whenever we have to.
Yep.
You want to do this next thing under 48-hour business?
No, just do it.
Okay.
The civil service list is out for,
Need us to appoint something.
yeah, so maybe we can do it under
48
48 hours.
hours.
The civil service list for the police department is out for the chief and lieutenants. Just so people understand, you have to go by civil service. You can't just make appointments. I would ask for, we now need to negotiate a contract, and I would ask that a member of the Board of Selectmen get involved in that with myself, so we're all on the same page.
Anybody who wants to serve on that? Alan?
Do that unless you're doing it.
I did it for 30 years, you know, as far as labor negotiations.
It's okay with me. Does anybody have a problem with that?
No,
You have a
no,
problem with that?
no.
Everybody's okay with it?
Yeah, I mean, it's the
I
contract.
have a
we-
motion to appoint Alan to the
So moved.
negotiating team, motion made by
I
Peter,
would like to,
Second.
seconded by Alan. Any discussion? I mean,
Yeah,
by Mary.
Just on clarification, will you be coming back to us in executive session to have discussion on, you know, where you've gone
Contract?
to and what you're gonna do?
Right.
Or do you want to do you,
I would
do
hope.
you do you have discussion with us beforehand to let us know what your thoughts are and, you know, other towns and salary ranges, or just,
Yeah.
I'm asking,
Yeah.
I don't know what your process is.
It's usually what we do is the next selectmen's meeting, I'd ask for an executive session to start going. This is going to move pretty quickly for the fall.
Be very quick.
Yeah,
Yeah, just boom, boom.
yeah.
So the next executive, you'll be bringing in a draft contract for us to review
Yeah, because there's,
with
We always see the,
proposed numbers and whatnot, and then we go from there.
That's how it works.
So, yep.
and
Okay.
then.
No, I'm just
then
doing
the-
it for the public's benefit here, in case anybody's
Well,
listening.
Yeah,
So,
so the motion was made by Peter and seconded by Mary. Is there any discussion about the motion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Okay, Alan, you're on duty. Okay, so that's what'll happen, and we'll see where we go, and hopefully quickly we can
So I abstain.
get a permanent person in place and go from there.
Yep.
All right, town administrators report, please.
thank you, Mr. Chairman. I spoke with Cassie at the office, and she's going to email out the full breakdown for the process of calling the special town meeting. That's the one where we do, whether it's free cash transfers or snow and ice. Believe it or not, it's, knock on wood, it's been pretty good so far, but it's our worst months are February and March for snow and ice
It's
removal.
actually on for February 11th to set the meeting.
You're right.
so-
So I spoke to her today, so that should,
Yeah, okay, I talked to her too, so I think
okay.
we're all set.
perfect.
Okay.
Last week, I was at the Finance Committee, and I gave them a little update on our projected revenues. So this is a copy for the board. The governor's speaking right now, and we will get his his budget. Most likely, the cherry sheet numbers will be released early next week, Monday or Tuesday. My budget's due on Saturday, so it means Finance Committee gets it on Monday, which means that the budget won't mean anything as soon as the governor's numbers are out, because that cherry sheet's going to be the number one biggest game changer. But just going through it, you'll see you have the three columns: the FY19 actual, the FY20 balanced. This one was rebalanced with the final cherry sheet numbers, which I don't know if everybody realizes came back in at almost a 200K negative to us when it came out finalized. So our real estate taxes, you bring the previous year's final levy base, which is the real estate taxes, the 2.5% authorized, and your new growth. You do not include the debt exclusion, and you bring that over to FY21. So your new levy base is $42,357,000, 2.5%. 2.5% is of the levy base. It's not any individual's taxes, has nothing to do with that. It's just the base. We are now a little bit over $1 million, so $1,050,009. Interestingly enough, people say, well, you get an extra $1 million. And yes, last year's 2.5% was $1,010,000. So we're really getting only 40,000 more than that previous year's. So it's an interesting concept. The new growth is basically a 5-year average, about 400,000. Last year we had one of the solar pilots. Actually, the solar agreement came online, so it was a better year than average. And then the new debt exclusion, the estimate is about $2.5 million. So our new property taxes are, if you look at it, are $45,950,366, almost $3.3 million. But really, we have new tax revenues about 1.45 because the debt exclusion goes directly to the cost of that new school.
Right.
Chapter 70, we're looking at the estimated, and that's why I've really been trying to see what's being said during the address. We're looking at probably an estimated $30 per pupil in new revenue, which is up from $25. So everybody understands if we have 2,429 pupils, that means our new school revenue is just under $73,000. The next one, which is what has been promised, is the fully funded charter school reimbursement. And that's the one that really scares me if they're not going to fulfill that commitment. That is our biggest jump. You'll see, even though we pay close to, I think I'd have to see the estimate, about 1.7 million. You get about, we'll hopefully be getting about 630,000 back. And that is because they changed the formula and they're supposed to be paying 100% of year one. And then it changes. They only give you, it used to be 25% in year two, 25% in year three. They've changed that formula and you're now supposed to be getting more. And they're supposed to be actually funding this, which they were not fully funding in the past. So, for example, they'd say, we're giving 20 million towards charter school. Well, it should have been 30 million. So those are really, you'd see the new revenue from Chapter 70 in charter schools is $408,721. Unrestricted general government aid, I reduced that to the 2%, which is tied into the estimated Commonwealth revenue growth. In the past, it's been in the 3% range, 3.8 and such. I did not do any changes to the veterans benefits, exemptions, or state-owned land. That's really the formula that'll come out of the Commonwealth, but you'll be give or take a few thousand there, not much of a change. So 42,000 in new general government aid and about 408,000 in the school aid. Now you come to our estimated local receipts. In FY18, we collected just under 3.1 million in motor vehicle excise. In FY19, our actual collections were 3,020,000. So it looks like we're having a slowing on the excise growth. This year is going to tell for certain what we're going to see. Excise usually does follow with an ebb and a flow. You see, as the economy's gotten better, people bought new cars, they're valued higher, and then they start owning those for a few more years. So I think it's prudent to keep it at the same level, not increase it. Local meals excise, I'm using 90% of the FY19 actuals with a 3% projected increase. That's what I'm seeing from the meals tax, that we are seeing a small uptick. So that's about 12,000 more. Local rooms occupancy, keeping it the same. The Airbnb tax, if you will, that was put in with the local rooms excise, and right now, the most I've estimated out of looking at it is about 75,000 a year increase. But I'd like to see us actually getting those revenues before projecting anything within a budget. The boat excise will be we've actually reduced that 5,000 due to the FY19 actual collections. Cannabis is the big one. We're asked about this all the time. So everyone understands there is only one retail shop open in the town. And while we've granted 3 retail licenses, there's only one opened. It's the Cannabis Control Commission that deals with gives them their provisional licenses. Has nothing to do with us. We've not held them up. Also, any of the other ones, the growers, the manufacturers, or the testers, just because we have agreements with them, they are not open. They have not been licensed by the Cannabis Control Commission, so there's no revenue coming in from them until they're opened. And you can't charge them just to have the license. It's not their fault that the way the commission is going, that it takes such a long time. So in other words, our income on this, the impact fee, is based on 3% of their revenue. If they're not open, there's no revenue coming in. Now, Verilife, between the actual deposits we've received from March 29th of 2019 and the last one that we've received was in November, the total amount has been $1,236,631. 25% of the available after we voted it in has gone to the Municipal Facility Stabilization Fund, which was just under $294,000, and then you'll see the $942,000 is the actual rest of the revenue. Here is my concern. Those impact fees are for reimbursing the town for its costs. It's a 3% impact fee. That you do that for the 5 years of life of the agreement. What happens right now after that 5th year?
Could go away.
Could go away.
3% instead of 6%.
Right. The 6% is on the retail. Everything else is only 3% on the impact fee.
And that disappears completely?
It could. There's no, right now, there's no telling what would happen. That's why I think at some point we need, and Selectman Muniz had brought this up before, we need to lobby the Commonwealth to put this in as the retail should be a 6% excise, and all the others should be a 3% excise. This impact fee, I will guarantee you, we're already seeing the lobby efforts. There'll be lawsuits on it, and that's why, while we're generating really good revenue right now, I do not believe we should try and bring that all into the budget, especially not for things that are non-one-time, such as personnel, because if that goes away, we are in trouble then. So if we're making great money, what happens is we take it in. It does not go into our pockets. It flows to free cash. Free cash is what we use to fix our buildings, to buy vehicles for the departments, to buy school buses. We've used it for any sort of number of capital items. I think that's a very good location for it now. So we've got 150,000 that we bring into the budget. We see what's going on with the municipal stabilization fund for the facilities. I just do not think until this is all shaken out, we should bring more into the budget.
Free cash?
Goes to free cash, right. So now, 2 other points. One, this may be the most amount we get for retail marijuana because this was the 3rd store opened up in the Commonwealth, or 4th store opened up in the Commonwealth. So it's not, as more open up, it doesn't mean you're getting more money. You're still taking from the same pool of people, and there's less pool, if you will, there's going to be less people because they'll be going to other stores. So I think this has been fantastic. If you can name something else that in 1 year with really no impact to the community, I shouldn't say that in case they're listening, impacts to the community would bring about $1.25 million. That's fantastic. So this is a very good thing. It's a good problem to have. And as we bring this money over to free cash, it will do things which the taxpayers do not have to pay for because we're paying for it out of these impact fees and such. The other part of that is we will no longer be receiving revenue from Covanta and CMAS. As that revenue is disappearing, that cannabis revenue can flow in and be a stopgap. So instead of requiring us to increase taxes to try and offset that, we have this other revenue source. It's been a really good deal for the community.
And that's between the haulers and the sticker sales. What's that, around 300,000?
Yeah, the haulers alone are about 130K, 140K, and then the sticker revenue as well. So that's,
53.
yeah.
So it's sizable.
So it is, if we did not have this revenue as a stopgap, we'd be in a lot of trouble. So it's, it's good timing for this. That was a big conversation with the finance committee, and there were some really great questions asked. So, in going through the rest of this, you'll see some of the penalties and interest. We're using 90% of the FY19 actuals. And just so people understand, that's a recommended amount from the Department of Revenue to use 90%. If you used 100% of your prior year, the actual full year's actuals, and you don't get that same amount doesn't come in, you have to make that up somewhere. So you'll see we continue on with the fees and the rentals. The rentals are made up from, we have OmniPoint, which is in the town hall, believe it or not. We have a cell phone tower in there, which we receive revenue, and also the Oak Grove School. Licenses and permits, we're using FY19 actuals, and I believe this year will be one of the review periods for the licenses and permits. I believe we'll see, we're going to poll surrounding communities. It looks like we could have a small increase in those and still stay competitive. The investment income is, the fines and forfeits, we used a 3-year average due to the cyclical nature. In FY18, you don't see it there, but you had over almost $100,000. So 100,075, which is why we've gone back down to the 75. We're seeing some better interest rates on our investment income. However, those have actually declined while they were going up a little bit. We get about 2%. Yeah, we have them in stable. They're not really in equities or anything like that because you're really not allowed to. It wouldn't be Medicaid, we use 90% of the FY19 actuals. And then the miscellaneous recurring, we've reduced that projections, and we may need to reduce that further with the loss of the Covanta revenues. So with our estimated local receipts and reimbursements, you're looking at about 82,000 in new revenue. The available funds, those are usually your receipts reserved for appropriation accounts. There's no change in the harbor service permit fees. That's what we bring in every year to help offset the DNR. And the waterways improvement helps offset the DNR and what they do for the waterways. Wetlands protection, we bring that in to pay for the conservation agent, which is how we're able to have a full-time conservation agent. The enterprise fund will be finalizing these estimates, but they have reduced potentially 2 staffing positions, which would mean that there'd be a reduction in the in what they actually have to reimburse the town, because the town covers all their health benefits and all the work on their behalf. So when you then go down to this, you'll see, because this is more the revenue and the fixed cost expense, we're not doing any changes to the departmental wages and expenses, and no changes to the school. So the next portion is fixed costs. Your debt exclusion, that's a 2.5 million. So essentially, that debt exclusion revenue is offset by the debt that you pay on it. That's an in and out. Debt principal, the goal is to keep it level funded for right now. It really should be 3% of our operating budget, but as we might have some projects coming online, this is where we would pay for those if you were to do a new station, police station, or something like that. So even if it's declining, my recommendation is keep it the same, so you don't have to suddenly increase that going out in the future. It would be the prudent measure to keep it the same. Veterans assessments, just estimating a small increase. The veteran service agent will give us their gives us their estimate, but we don't usually receive that till about March, April. Serped assessment, I've just kept it the same. The increase was $100 before, so I don't know if you're seeing it.
2.5%.
2.5% increase. Can we refuse to pay that?
Sure.
Plymouth County retirement contribution, that is our actual contribution. They're from their actuarial reports, so that is what we will pay, and that is with the 3% prepayment reduction. So if you pay within the first month of the fiscal year, you get a 3% reduction. LIUNA is the Laborers International Union pension. The clerical water pollution control laborers, the municipal maintenance laborers, and the 4 persons, they pay a portion of that, and the town pays the rest of it. This is workers' comp and 111F. That has been the industry. It's been going up greatly. We have been getting grants out of Maya, and what we do is a lot of our staffs do training, do webinars, which helps us reduce our actual costs. They'll give us credits against it, but until we hear we're going to get the credits, we never change the budgeted amount until you know you're going to get them. You can use some of those credits for actual services, such as having building inspections or an inventory report. They'll pay for those. So it's a useful tool. Town general and professional liability insurance also keeps on going up. Unemployment. Yeah, they have been large increases for what we've seen. Some of the general liability is, for the first time, our properties were revalued through Maya for the first time in 10 years. So that was a $35,000 hit right there. So again, they continue, and it's also based, unlike some of the like our pooled health insurance, these are based on our experience. So it's how many claims you have plus the severity of the claims. So in a way, we control our own costs. They're always going to go up X amount, but if you're basically on the more severe list, we've been doing a lot better on the general liability, as you know, from the town's portion, the lawsuits and the things that we've had to set aside. But we have had some accidents. believe it or not, one of the biggest amount of claims or repetitive claims is through special education due to kicks, hits, bites, and things such as that, and that's a tough job. So let's see from some of my own family experiences and stuff. So unemployment, keeping it the same. We have not used that all up in the last few years, but it's that can disappear fairly quickly if you have a couple layoffs or something like that. But usually, depending on the number of layoffs, if you can offset that with some of the health insurance, if there's some savings, but it doesn't always equal out. Health insurance, we're doing really well, projecting a conservative 2% increase. But we're having a changeover in the staffing, where our subscribers last December were about 588, 508 or 89, and this year it's 611. Some of it's people that have retired, and then those positions are filled, and but that's a big jump. And when some of those programs we cover 67.5%. Some of those, when you look at it, 2/3 of that's $20,000. So if there's somebody that wasn't on a plan, is now gotten married, wants to use our plan, a family plan, or is coming off their parents, they've aged out, they're age 27 or something, and they're in a relationship, that can be a big hit to us and a big change. As part of this almost $8.2 million, I do a $200,000 health holdback, I call it, which is I built in $200,000 into this estimate. And that's why this year we're able to survive the change and the uptick in subscribers, because we do have that holdback. Without that, you'd be looking at trying to transfer money in or cutting from other lines. So I think it's a prudent measure to keep that there. Life insurance is just they're small basic policies. 30,000 will cover it. There could maybe be a small reduction in that. FICA is the 1.45% we pay on payroll. As you get the contracts and such, you look at some of the 3% increases. It means that you have to increase your FICA because you're paying more on payroll. The county and state assessments, if you looked at, that's mainly driven by the school choice and the charter school reimbursement. The increase you can see from FY19 to FY20, the actual increases were almost $700,000, and that was led by those two categories, and it's just been a killer. Then when we do the full budget presentation, you'll see the chart on it, but it's been an almost 1,200% increase over the last decade. And so, and then some of the other assessments are from like the GATRA assessment, the mosquito control. This is where we pay the retired teachers' GIC health insurance out of this portion. It's about 1.4 to 1.5 million, just depending. The overlay is the reserves you set on your revenue, on your tax revenue for abatements and such. We used to have to go more cyclical and raise it, but because you'd have to have enough within it for that fiscal year for all your abatements, but now with the Municipal Modernization Act, they changed how that's done. Upper Cape Cod Tech, we have 6 less students. I'm using a very, a 2.5% increase. I do think it could be 20 to 30,000 more than that. So I'm going to review it for the finalized budget. But all told, when that's left, we have about $766,070 to split between the town and school for our departments. So that's when, that's a good representation for people to understand how, they say, well, you get about $2 million in new revenue. Why can't you survive off of that? And the new revenue gets split up into all these other categories before it actually gets down to the departmental budgets. Outside of the requests beyond the just contractual obligations, such as I know Chief Walsack has been looking for an impact team to better the life of the residents and be very proactive and responsive, but that it would be 6 new officers. We know that's a cost like that, 6 or 700,000. Well, we only have 766,000. So realistically, the towns, our departmental increase would be about 2.6%. So you'd be looking about 360,000. The school department has requested a 4.5% increase, which is about 1.3 million, and it just doesn't exist. So the ultimate goal is to try and get 2.5% into each one of the departments. And I don't, it's really going to depend on what we see out of the cherry sheets. If we're continued to hit with the school choice and the charter school, there's no way to make that. So.
We'll see basically on Friday again, but I still have concerns about the change in how they fund the schools and everything's supposed to be a whole $1.5 billion change. I haven't seen the numbers, at least for a town like Wareham, having a substantial help. In some places, it looks like it could actually go the other way a little bit. So it concerns me if the school's looking for that much money. They better hope that the governor's budget does make some changes so it actually happens, because right now it doesn't look that way. We've talked, at the MMA, we've talked about the host agreement and the other pieces, and we're very concerned because there's a very strong lobby from the industry to kill the host agreement monies because they're claiming that the towns are charging for something that doesn't exist. And I would not be surprised if something comes down within a year, if they can get their process caught up with all the pieces that are holding out, that may have to be, you have to show legitimate expenses to offset what you're asking for, because there's a lot of pressure on that right now.
In theory, you're supposed to account all the impacts to your community and the town's costs to coincide with those. And I don't know of any town that's going to sit there and back it up like that.
I don't think you can right now.
The schools have, what'd you say, 1 million? What was the number, 1 million what? They're asking?
1.3, 1.4.
Increase 1.3 million. Isn't the increase in salaries alone $1 million over there? It's just over $1 million, in fact.
Yeah.
So their salary increase, so this year they're facing $1 million increase in salary line. So they're really, I mean, even if you had the money, they'd be basically level funded.
Yeah, that's.
I mean, if
Yeah.
you think about, they gotta pay the, 3% or whatever it is they get in their contract.
Yeah, and I mean, to actually make the 2.59% for us, that's reducing a half-timer out of the treasurer collector's office, not filling a position in the DNR, and actually not filling a position in the municipal maintenance office. So.
You know, it's not all roses and for anybody, really.
Yeah,
Come
no.
down to it, you know?
No.
But I've seen it worse.
Oh yeah, we've always. I mean,
I've seen it way worse, in fact.
we've seen it worse. We have to do what we have to do. You know, I'm not trying to do the Bill Belichick on it. I know that's not the best answer, folks, but we've explained year after year about the issues and talked about how we're making this. There's been some one-time fixes. Changing the health insurance splits was a one-time. The unions worked with the town to make that happen. Helped reduce. I think it was almost $750,000 out of liability of the town. They had to pick it up. It helped us not lay off some people, and it's been a good all-around. You know, trying to make some of these work, picking up new revenues, going, you know, try and do what we can. Actually, clearly the economy has helped as well, but we're still limited on the types of monies and we can raise. So,
Can I ask a question about the charter schools? Why this is such a big impact? I mean, this almost seems like, unless I'm getting this wrong, that with the public school, and we have all these unfunded mandates, now they're going to give you an option for charter schools to not have to follow all those mandates, and they're gonna almost double the budget for charter schools?
Well, that's the reimbursement. That's the reimbursement to our school, to us.
Reimbursement
Yeah.
for it.
So, yeah,
What they say.
there seems to be the idea that charter schools do a nice job coming out of Boston, and there's a lot of support for them. So, yeah, you're a lobbyist up there.
But they're
Ellen,
not
so-
tied to all the same regulations that
No.
public schools
Yeah.
are, or are they?
Really, no.
Yeah,
So that, it
operate-
just doesn't make
They
sense,
operate,
like,
well, the problem is, you go even to the federal level, the Secretary of Education at the federal level is very much in favor of, the alternative education. And in the state of Massachusetts, the governor is extremely in favor of charter schools. So with the MMA, we constantly lobby, we'd like to see a reimbursement of $100 per student, never mind 25 or 30. The charter schools we've never been reimbursed at the local level for the cost of the charter school chargeback. So we're still substantially, out as far as the numbers. And that's the issue. You get a charter school, there's, I think, one more charter school in Plymouth or something close by that affects us. And as these come up, because they're easy to do, it takes students away. I mean, if you look at the population of the high school now versus, say, 4 years ago, 5 years ago, there's a tremendous change.
right.
And that money goes,
We had over
Everywhere but
3,000
here.
students, and now we got 20.
and we have all that fixed expense of the schools based on the original populations. And you don't really see a decrease in the number of teachers because it's more difficult to teach. There's a lot of classes where there's 2 teachers in a classroom, one to teach, one virtually to control and discipline. It's a very difficult situation. And the state's not, Massachusetts, it's amazing. Massachusetts is the #1 rated school system in the United States. I think we're in the top 5 in the world, actually. So people look and say, we're not doing that well. But our system is good. The problem is we're not reimbursing at a level that makes it, viable
Yeah.
or fair. And that's an issue which is not going to be easy to solve. The state was running for the last couple of years, they have what they call a benchmark revenue, which means the state basically estimates what the revenue would be for the year, and they estimate the growth on top of that. It's really great if they can make that benchmark. Some years they were way behind it, and therefore they had to make, I think it's C9 cuts and stuff, which takes money away at the last minute. In this particular case, we've been 3.4% over benchmark the last 2 years. Well, the House and the Senate are nervous about the economy moving forward, and they're only going to use a benchmark of 2%. So there's less money available. The governor had $1 billion surplus to move around and do things. That's why we got some of the stuff you just saw. So what Derek's doing is not just correct, it's the only way to go forward. Because I'm really concerned that, whether or not we can actually affect what happens with the Cannabis Control Commission, because they're leaning to make those changes to cut the revenue. And, if you look at Washington, Oregon, Colorado, those cities and towns are getting 2 to 3 times more money than what Massachusetts cities and towns are getting by percentage.
That's legislative action though, right?
That's right.
Yeah. It's not the Cannabis Control Commission.
Well, they're the ones who control what things go forward, though, and they're leaning toward not helping us, just so
Yeah.
you know.
But they're stuck with the contracts for 5 years. They can't go back and change our contracts with somebody. They don't have the authority to do that.
But we have that issue that,
And it's up
But-
to us to drive the bus to lobby to keep it.
Yeah.
Right.
If nobody does anything, then we're gonna lose it and,
Yeah.
That's really decent revenue for us, especially when the growers and manufacturers, and I think one of the smartest choices this town did was locking up one of the largest manufacturers in the entire country, because when the market gets saturated, they'll still be here when others are
they'll be
falling
the ones
off.
surviving.
And just so, our state assessments, total assessments to the town in 2010 were $2,335,770.
It's like 8 million, right?
Yeah, well, now our assessments for school school choice is 1.74 million, and charter's 1.52 million. So that's today. So if you looked at us in 2010, school choice was $74,742. In 2020, it's $1,740,838. So charter was $205,158, and charter in 2020's $1,520,104.
Takes a lot of money out of your schools.
Right, what was our budgets then comparatively?
Oh, geez.
I don't need, it had to be considerably less.
Yeah, you had to be in the probably the high 40s,
Because you
low
had the
50s.
2.5% plus the
Yeah.
growth, and you had that in the next year,
That was close to
2.5%
$50
plus the
million.
growth.
Yeah. So
It still doesn't equate, unfortunately.
It does not.
No, but, and I think in reality, we're in pretty good times,
Yeah.
we're in growth.
financially,
Yeah.
so,
Compared to where we were 7 years ago, 8 years ago,
Yeah.
you better believe it.
All right, what else you got?
I hope that's enough.
Plenty.
Okay,
It's always my favorite part of the year.
next up, liaison
Exactly.
reports.
I'd like to first thank Town Administrator Sullivan for bringing this forward. We've let this go a little bit time-wise, because we usually get them every quarter, but it's nice to see what's really going on, and the public gets an idea of what we're dealing with.
So liaison, I didn't call on you yet.
You did.
I
You looked at-
didn't. I
you-
said liaison reports.
You looked at me and you recognized me.
I didn't look at you yet. I was gonna ask Jim first. No, go ahead. Go ahead, Alan.
so won't be embarrassed following
Go ahead.
Alan.
Go for it, Alan.
Okay, as I talked about before, Destination Plymouth, which is running the Plymouth 400 celebration of America's 400th birthday. I met them on Friday. And basically, we were discussing a lot of different things. It came out that they have a satellite parking program with Kingston, which is north of Plymouth. I asked, well, what's your parking program for south of Plymouth? There is none. Number one. They haven't really sat down. I don't believe Gary has had any real discussions as far as the effect of our harbor and everything else. So I gave them Gary's information. I gave Ken Buckland's information. I mentioned to Mary, I'm not sure if Peter knew, I gave Ken Buckland this morning membership information, because we have not joined back Destination Plymouth in a couple of years. Once Paul Cripps kind of unfortunately passed away, we dropped the ball as well. They provide in their brochures and in their website the events in town. The OBA takes advantage of it with Cat Jones, and they have all their events are published. Their particular information goes out worldwide, because they have requests all over the world for what's happening in the Plymouth region. It's not just Plymouth only. So I'm hoping we get back. It's a whopping $250 membership a year. So we easily should be able to afford that. And they'll be contacting Ken, and Ken has the information as well. As a matter of fact, since I'm doing that, if you want to pass this over to Peter, who's chair of the redevelopment authority, those are the two contacts for the two people. We can take care of that. Had a meeting today with the MPO for Serpent on transportation. We should be getting the information on the Tohonet Road, Route 28 intersection that the police department and the fire department asked me to look at for a traffic study, and to see what they come up with and what the possible alternatives are. Swift Beach Road is still on process of having something done there, whether or not the Route 6 redesign happens or not. I mentioned the casino bill earlier. And I said the bike path is still in process, and it looks like it's locked in. They did a presentation last week at Serpent as well. And the last thing I have really is the Kathleen, who's the new director of the bathhouse for the Buzzards Bay Coalition. Sandy and I, she called us and we met with her on Thursday. They went over their project and their plans, et cetera, besides working with the Boys and Girls Club in the town and everything else. Their plans are really pretty spectacular. This is going to be a really nice project for them, and they'll be up and running this spring. There'll be, I think, a preliminary, I think on the 24th, I'm not sure if they've notified the town or not. They're going to have some type of, like an open house at the bathhouse. The place is, closed in. It's not finished inside or anything, but they they're gonna have just a preliminary, take a look at it. But we'll get notified of the actual, when the real opening happens. Wicked Island, most of that is done as well. So it's gonna be pretty interesting overall. But again, she was at the Martin Luther King talking to people, and they're going out and really trying to be very proactive and trying to get the community to understand what's gonna happen. That's it.
Jim?
Let's see, we had the Affordable Housing Fund Trust Fund meeting this morning. Had a couple of the new members there, pretty much full board. And unfortunately, Stephen couldn't make it today, but had a quorum. Good discussion, talking about a number of things. It's nice to have some energy, you know, some.
Got to talk in the microphone.
It's nice to have some energy and new people to pick up some of the weight, you know, carry some of the weight. And you know, looking forward, I think it's going to be a positive thing, tell you the truth.
Okay.
And I guess that would be about it. Initiative report. So I have been working on the policies, reading them. A lot of policies.
Mm-hmm.
So that's moving forward slowly, and I don't know if Alan and I are gonna get together this week. We talked about it too.
Next week, either way.
Yeah, do some work on the Selectmen's master plan, I guess.
Yeah, 88-10.
So,
Well, interesting.
that's it.
Speaking of that, I just want to mention this. I got a letter today from the Finance Committee
Yeah, we saw
Yeah.
that.
suggesting that they don't want to participate in, which is fine. I mean, it doesn't make any difference to us one way or the other. We did it for them so that they could see the financial impacts. You know, that was the whole purpose of it. But apparently, they're not interested in doing it, so that might be something you might want to take out of that as well. They still have to come in front of us, but we should probably just remove the Finance Committee from it. And
Just put it on the agenda for us, that's all.
so that'll have to get removed and so on, so. While you're doing this, you might want to take a look at that.
It was a nice, friendly letter.
Yeah, that's what I thought when I got it, yeah.
I think the language was basically stick it where you know.
Yeah, well, that's
Well,
okay.
they figure they get a shot at it anyhow in their recommendations too, right?
Yeah, they do.
And
Well-
we get a double whack at it.
Yeah.
We
and
say,
then-
yeah, you can put it, then we look at the
Well, and that's
actual
fine.
presentation.
You know, and in some respects, they're right. They are just, you know, a board that makes recommendations to town meeting, and that's technically what they do. But there are other things that they do too, because remember, the Finance Committee looks at everything. Everything that comes in front of them, even zoning articles and everything else, even though some of the guys want to slough that off and say, okay, we're not going to deal with those issues, and we're going to vote nothing on those, it's still part of the plan. They're still there.
Right. Anything with any kind of financial impact.
Yeah,
on town.
because there's an impact to everything, you know, typically financially. So, but it's okay. I mean, if that's what they don't want to do, I don't have a problem.
No, I think it actually, it made sense a little bit where it would always be, because with the CPC deadline being so early, then trying to get the finance committee together and give them a realistic presentation, they felt that it was pro forma on them. They weren't actually getting the information at that point. So in a way, it sort of makes sense. And I think it was something that the chairman and I had spoke about, Mr. Pigeon. We talked about it. So.
I should hope that the chairman in the future would just ask us. You know, call me up, talk about it, we can put it on the agenda, and we could have taken them out.
Yeah, gotcha.
You know what I mean? That
Yeah.
would have been nice. You know, just, I mean, this board is pretty responsive to just about everybody, every board and everybody in the town, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And, you know, all of a sudden you get a letter like that, and it's a little taken back, you know?
No,
Just, I mean, it is what it is.
well, I don't think anyone will give Bernie style points. So.
No style points. All right, Peter, you're up.
The RFP document for Littleton Drive has been sent out. People have until March 9th, I believe it is, to respond. A couple of different lists were used. Ken has a list of developers that it was sent out to. Mass Housing also has their own list,
And additionally, there were several developers who called and requested to receive copies of it because they saw, where it was posted and so on and so forth. So it's kind of interesting that, we just got a hold of this land not even a year ago, and we're already in the process of trying to look at development proposals to see what can be done out there and what the market will sustain more properly. So we hope to get something going on that fairly soon.
All right.
Oh, yeah, also, there was a request for proposals submitted for the use of the pickling building at Tremont Nail Company. There was one respondent. This guy operates a woodworking business in Falmouth. He's looking to relocate to Wareham, and his proposal, without getting too far into the details, would call for a mutual investment of between the town and himself to occupy the building for a term of years under a lease. That's a building that was actually, of all the buildings out there, that was the one building that the 2009 study basically said, yeah, if you had to get rid of one building, it would be this building. So it's kind of ironic that we've got the non-historic sheet metal building, we've got a tenant going in there, and now we've got this other building. That basically 10 years ago they said, you can get rid of this thing, and somebody's interested in going in there and embarking on a joint venture with the town to bring a business there. So it's kind of funny, you look around at the place, and those aren't the first two you would necessarily pick for historic or other reasons, but yeah, they're the ones that some things are going forward with. So we'll have more news hopefully about that, and discuss possible, if the town is going to engage in a joint venture with this guy, to talk about possible funding sources to get that building fixed up and running and a viable business in there.
Okay, Mary?
Nope.
Okay, the police study committee meeting, do you decide that was the time, that was gonna be the date?
I hadn't had any responses. I
You
threw
didn't
it
have
out
response
there.
yet? Okay,
Yeah.
so you don't know yet. Okay,
Okay.
that's fine. The sewer commissioners are meeting with Bourne at 6:30 tomorrow night. I plan on being there. I'll let you know what that's all about and what's going on when I see you next meeting, okay? Yeah, it'll be interesting. So, other than that, I'd say we're all set. Consent agenda, I believe we have some minutes.
Meeting minutes,
I went through December 10th, I'm good on those,
okay, good.
because we didn't vote on those, right?
It's July 7th. Should be July 7th,
January 7th.
January,
So I
sorry.
move that we approve the meeting minutes from January 7th, 2020, and we were all present.
Motion made by Mary, seconded by Peter. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Okay, that only leaves us one thing, and that's adjournment.
So moved.
Peter,
Oh, I beat you
hey, this isn't an auction, You don't look at somebody and say, oh, I got you. Motion made by Peter, seconded by Alan. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, it's unanimous. Thank you, Wareham. Stay warm. It's going to be very cold tonight, but then it's going to moderate. Interesting enough, I just wanted to say this one thing. The MMA meeting is this weekend, which I'll be attending, and I'm sure Alan will be attending. And it's going to snow like it always does. Oh, yes, it is. It's going to snow Saturday, so, not here. We're supposed to get just rain, but snow up in Boston where the meeting is, and it seems to be
every year.
happen every year when I go to that MMA meeting. It snows, so.
I'll be at the dentist.
You. All right, thank you.
Dentist.
Bye-bye.